Hello and welcome to the Productive Habits Podcast, where we talk about our journey of going from non-productive wastemen to aspiring productivity gurus. As always, we are your hosts, Dennis and Jamie, and in today's episode, we will be talking about our keys to staying focused and how to overcome distractions. But first off, how you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing just great. As always, try to be as positive as possible. Second day after the new year and starting pretty well, actually. I got 8 hours of sleep, which is very important.
Nice.
And I got a lot of work done today in the morning. So I'm super stoked to do this. And I want to keep the productivity ball rolling. How was your end there, Dennis?
Dude, that's awesome. Keep that positivity up. It was pretty good. I got about 7.5 hours of sleep, which is like 3 hours more than I normally get. During the school time, which is great.
Had
But yeah, man, had some delicious pizza. They have a deal going on with like unlimited mediums for $7.99 when we picked it up yesterday, and
no way.
it was fantastic. Yeah,
That's proper. Right now they have like a 50% off for like your pizza. A lot of people say it's cardboard, but it does its job for the price,
yeah. See, you got
right?
to think
And
about like what is the value proposition here, right?
yeah,
Are you trying to pay $20 for a good pizza, or are you trying to pay $5 for a pretty good pizza?
right. And like we're striving to be productivity manners. We don't want masters. We don't want to waste our time thinking, oh, which pizza we want to get. When we want pizza, we want something now,
Exactly. You want it
right?
now, right?
And I want something consistent. Pizza, it might not be the best, but it's consistent,
Speaking of
right?
consistency, and great segue by the way. We're talking about staying focused today, right? And and,
Yes.
and part of the keys to staying focused is being consistent, right? So for me, I used to have a really tough time staying focused, because I would do this thing where I'm a very extreme person, and I've slowly been working on that to kind of temper and better balance myself out. But what I used to do is whenever I had a task or like a project or something that needed doing, I would basically in one go try and do everything in one shot. Right. So let's say, I don't know, I had to write, I don't know, a paper or something, right? And this is before I kind of developed these habits to like, really be more efficient and productive with my time. I would kind of procrastinate, and then I'd be like, oh, shoot, I have 10 hours to go before a midnight submission, right? So what I would do is I'd spend like those 10 hours just trying to knock it off straight. And what I realized, my work was never as good as it could have been.
Yeah. I actually share the same thing as well, where I try to get as much work done as possible, try to
Hmm.
get all those objects. So if it's an essay, if I'm trying to finish it, I'll try to do everything. So first, second, third paragraph all at once.
The
And so in my
sandwich.
mind, yeah, a sandwich.
Yeah.
And in my mind, when I'm, let's say, doing the first paragraph, I'm also thinking about the second, third in the back of my head.
Hmm.
And so I'm not being as, effective because I'm not putting full attention to that one paragraph I should be focused on.
Yeah, so there's actually a couple things we can kind of break down in there. So for you, you said you would kind of overthink. You would skip ahead before finishing the thing that you were already doing.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's just in the back of my head. If I'm working on an essay, the conclusion is in the back of my head. So I'm always never fully focused on the task at hand. And I still kind of have that issue to this day as well.
So okay, that's I'm kind of glad you said that. So when you say you kind of have this issue, like in what capacity exactly?
Where the I think it's just a bigger issue at hand that eventually we'll talk about.
Hmm.
It's, my mind is too pacey. It's too active. I have that very big city mindset where you're go, 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 do this, do this, do this.
Hmm.
And there's so many things pacing in my head,
Right.
which I think on a little side tangent, meditation would be great. And I think maybe that'll be a different topic another day. But that's something I'm trying to overcome.
Hmm.
Just trying to stick on one task and not focus on too many at once, and not try to get everything done at once is, I think, very important. Which you mentioned, right?
Yeah, so we're kind of basically talking about, how we were before we kind of incorporated these different focusing practices into our life.
Hmm.
And, for Jamie, he would kind of skip ahead and not really be focused on the present thing. For me, I would try and focus on everything. And so no individual part would actually get, my complete attention. And I feel like everything else would kind of fall by the wayside because of that. Another thing I kind of want to bring up is that, I also feel like it's a really common problem where lack of focus, lack of attentiveness, lack of, I don't know, kind of just, being present in what you're doing. There is no one cause. I feel like there are a myriad of different factors that kind of bring this
Yeah.
about, and we're gonna try and talk about each of them step by step. So one of the factors I want to talk about in terms of like not being able to stay focused is kind of how you treat your body, right? So we talked about sleep. We talked about how we were getting 8 hours, 7.5 hours yesterday. And what I think a lot of people kind of neglect, even though it's something that they know, is that sleep is really important for your cognitive function. So if you're not getting enough sleep, chances are you won't be able to focus either.
Yeah, that's 100% sure. I mean, it's been well researched that sleep has a huge determinant on your capacity to work the problems, to work, to study, and all that.
Hmm.
And on a personal level, just knowing that I got 8 to 9 hours of sleep starts me off on a very good note.
Right.
The moment I wake up, I look. I don't know if you have any tracking software for sleep, but I use my Garmin watch. It's a fitness watch, tracks my
Hmm.
sleep. And so one of the first things I do in the morning is check how much sleep I got. Uh, what is really important is deep sleep, but that's something else we'll maybe talk about.
Yeah.
And so when I see that I get 8 to 9, when I get 8 to 9 hours, it puts me in a good mood.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, sleep, huge, very important.
So like you notice a difference between like when you get 8 hours versus you get like six.
Yeah, there's a mental and physical difference. You may not notice it if you just start focusing on getting more sleep,
Hmm.
but in the medium and long term, you'll see the compounding effects of 8 to 9 hours or four. I think that's 4 to 5 sleep cycles
Yeah, I think that's
of
about
sleep.
right. And so you said you use a Garmin. Is there an app that's associated with that, or is it kind of like its own
It's a
separate
built.
thing?
It's built. It's a Garmin software,
Hmm.
but I'm pretty sure you could download something. Do you have anything for that? Are you tracking your sleep too?
Well, actually, I've kind of been thinking about it because I realize, I'm kind of like a stat junkie. I like to know what's going on,
Mm.
but also sleep is one of the most important things that happen to you, and you do it every day for a large period of time, hopefully. Um, so I've been thinking, but I've heard about this like there's a ring called Oura Ring or something
Oh
that
yeah.
supposedly is really good at tracking your sleep, and then there's like Fitbits and Apple Watches. Kind of pricey, but I don't know. Like, do you think it's worth it?
I honestly think it's worth it. Thing is, with Garmin and smartwatches, they can't really accurately track. They can track how much within 80% accuracy of how much you sleep, but
Hmm.
they can't really track like deep, light REM sleep. And I think Aura is better, slightly better. It's like $300 USD, but if you're using it every day
Hmm.
and it's for improving your health and well-being, it's totally worth it. Something you use every day that improves your general overall well-being is a worth it investment. So I want to try it. Aura, if you want to sponsor us, give us
Yeah,
a shout
please.
out.
Yeah, come on. We'll send our PO box and everything. Just you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, I'll actually post a story every day, like just kissing a ring. Just send it over.
I'm 100% on board. So along with sleep, I feel like another big determinant of just being physically and mentally ready to stay focused is exercise, right? And I feel like you can speak a little bit more about this.
I guess I can because exercise has been a fundamental part of me ever since I guess when I was a kid
Hmm.
and being an athlete. So a lot of studies have shown that if you were to exercise or work out or do work, study right after exercise, you'll
Hmm.
reap the benefits of the endorphins rush, the feel good hormone. And
Yeah.
so as soon as you start work, you feel good about it and you want to do good work and accomplish whatever you have to accomplish. And so just from a personal level, like I feel really happy after doing a nice 20-minute run in the morning, head off to work or teach a
Hmm.
class, and I'm more productive. So exercise, huge, a lot of science behind it. I'm no scientist unless you could explain the mechanism of how it works out? Do you know how it works out?
Not especially, but I feel like you kind of like hit the main point, right? Like when your body is moving, you get endorphins, there's blood rushing to your brain, and your body is just a lot more active. Um,
Yeah.
but for you, do you feel like there's a personal difference in your ability to do work after you do like cardio versus like weightlifting?
Well, there's this video YouTuber that you watch. Is it Dr. Kev Umj?
Oh
Jumbe?
yeah, Kevin Jubal, MD on YouTube. Yeah, super
Jubal.
super
Yes.
amazing videos. Yeah.
Yeah. So he vlogs and all that. He's a super productive guy. And I was watching his video one day and he mentioned that he used to work out in the morning, I think.
Hmm.
But when you weight train and do cardio in the morning, you're going to feel fatigued right after.
Right.
So what he did was he switched that around and did a very light exercise in the morning. So you still get the benefits of exercise, but
Hmm.
not too tired. So then you start fresh. You enter your class or work fresh as opposed to being fatigued from the heavy weight training. So I don't
Hmm.
really work out in the morning. I just do a very light cardio session. So running or cycling, something like that.
Cycling. Yes.
Like, yes, cycling.
Yes, definitely cycling.
Call back
Um,
to, yeah.
Yeah, call back to the earlier podcast to podcast one. Sorry, time management. Check it out if you haven't already.
Hmm.
But yeah, like there are many facets to staying focused, and a big part of it is the macro sense, how you treat your body, how you sleep, how you exercise. But a lot of stuff comes down to more micro stuff and the actual techniques that you use to focus, right?
Yeah.
We kind of spoke about Pomodoros somewhat in episode one, time management, but for me personally, I feel like the Pomodoro is the single greatest thing that's ever happened to me in terms of productivity.
Yeah. I'm not well versed into. I guess I'm not as well versed into it as you. I'm pretty sure you started Pomodoros a bit earlier. So do you mind just like kind of re-explaining what it is?
Yeah, of course. So my whole introduction to Pomodoros actually came from Kevin Jubal MD. He has another YouTube channel called Med School Insiders, and it basically kind of gives you, the blueprint of how to attain a special type of success, be it academic, entrepreneurship, whatever, right? It gives you the blueprint, and part of that is essentially breaking down known quantities of work into smaller subsets and chunks of time, right? So we were talking about like we have 10 hours to do an essay, right? Instead of working from, I don't know, 12 to 10 nonstop, what you want to do is, and what's a more efficient way of doing it, is breaking up that 10 hours into smaller subsets of time. So the Pomodoro method, and the method that I use, is basically every 15 minutes is work, and then you get a 5 minute break. And that 15 plus 5 constitutes one Pomodoro. And so the pattern that I like to use is after three Pomodoros, which is three 15-minute work sessions and three 5 minute breaks, you take a half-hour break, and then from there you kind of reset. And what I found is that not only am I a lot more able to stay focused on what I'm doing, but I don't get as fatigued nearly as fast as I would if I kept going nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like work. I love working out, so it's like working out, right? I'm not gonna deadlift from like do 100 reps nonstop
Hmm.
as my whole workout session. No, I'm gonna break it up. I'm gonna maybe do one set of 5 reps and then rest for 2 minutes.
Hmm.
Similarly, when you're doing a mental exercise such as your essay, have that 15-minute work interval, 5 minute rest. Let your mind catch up. I did a variation of the Pomodoro technique. I
Hmm.
mean, it still uses Pomodoros where I did 25 minutes
Yeah.
of nonstop work and 5 minutes of rest.
Mm.
However, after learning from Dennis that 15 minutes is what he uses, I transitioned to 15 minutes and it's tons better because 25 minutes of just pure work is a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
And there's more room for you to be unfocused or not focused or going on Instagram
Hmm.
or on your phone. Whereas 15 minutes, you know, it's not short, but it's short enough where you don't have those urges to go on Instagram or on WhatsApp or anything
Exactly.
else.
Yeah.
So it's the sweet spot. I love it.
And you brought up like conflating working out and being focused, and you're absolutely right, because I think a lot of the thing, one very important thing we kind of neglect is that our brain is an organ, It's part of the body, right? And just like any part of the body, when under extreme duress needs rest, so does the brain, right? It
Yeah.
cannot constantly keep going and going and going without fail. Eventually it's going to fail, and eventually it's not going to work as optimally as it should. It's like you do squats, right? Eventually, if you're doing 100 squats in a row at like, I don't know, 350, right? You're going to give out.
Yeah. 350 is a lot of weight though. 50 grams is something I could probably do 100 reps in a row.
Yeah, 350
But
grams.
50 grams, just put on a shirt and there you go. But yeah, 100%, you can't be doing things continuously. I don't think humans are really built to, we don't have that attention span to do things like that, you know. So yeah, break it up. Huge. Pomodoro, check it out. Is there another technique other than the Pomodoro that you use?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few. So, and I've experimented with many different kinds, and I kind of found the one that works best for me.
Mhm.
So, for me, I after experimenting for a bit, Pomodoro works. It's my bread and butter. It's what I do. But what I used to do as well is that I used to kind of chunk it even further, right? So, what I would kind of do is I would be like, okay, for this period of time, I'm going to get this done. And I had a singular goal. And I don't know, like let's say 3 hours, I'd read this portion of a book,
Uh,
right? And, it kind of sounds like Pomodoro's, and it kind of is. But what I found is that, like with your 25-minute, if you give something too much time, you're going to find voids in there and ways to kind of fill it with unneeded space,
that's facts.
right?
That's facts. Yeah, and I I I did that once and or a few times during university. Like, oh, I'm going to spend this whole evening just finishing that assignment.
Hmm.
And when you actually look back at it, that 4 or 5 hours, maybe one or two was actual work, and three
Yeah.
was just alt tabbing to YouTube,
Hmm.
or you're just going back and forth to your kitchen and grabbing food. So it's not really a good use of time when you think about it.
No, and another thing with that is too, it your mileage may vary depending on who you are, but I realized I can't work in groups.
In groups, oh,
I cannot work in groups.
well, okay, why?
So when I work in a group, I realize that my mindset is kind of split between what I'm doing and kind of what they're doing, right? And not in like a competitive way, but
Mm.
I notice that part of me is keeping an eye on what they're doing. And
Uh,
because of that, I don't have that full attention span to just focus on what I need to do.
so are you telling me you are a control freak in a
Yes,
group setting?
I'm 1,000% a control freak.
Yeah, that's
100%. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So you'll be a great manager in a company, not a
Well,
doctor.
I
I'm
mean,
joking.
that remains to be seen.
Yeah, you would be.
But like for the personal things that I'm working on, like I realize that, unless it's team focused, which is entirely different than like taking a test,
Mhm.
right? Like if it's something that I have to
Oh
take a
yeah.
test for, then I can't work in a group. But if it's something more collaborative, more creative, then that's fine. But if
Okay,
it's
that
something,
makes sense.
yeah, if it's something with like a graded, I don't know, what's the term?
Assignment. No.
Yeah, an assignment or an essay or something, or like a test or an exam, very academic related. I found that I can't, even in groups of two, I can't work with other people.
Yeah, I'm the same in a sense, but not the same motive.
Hmm.
Like I'm not a control freak in that way,
Right.
but I just prefer working alone. I like the solitude of just, tuning into yourself and not worrying about what other people think or what they're going to ask you.
Yeah. So
So,
that's kind of the same thing that I
yeah,
feel.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I guess
Um.
we're both on the same boat there.
Yeah. But like, when did you figure that out? Because it took me a while. Because like, it's fun to hang out with people. It's fun to be with people who are doing the
Yeah.
same thing, and like, you need some jokes in there every now and then. You can't be all serious. But then I realized I'm like, yeah, this is not good for me, man.
Yeah. It has its moment. I guess when I started to work out, I really liked working out, and then it kind of just branched out from there. Like I
Oh,
used
right.
to just love working out by myself, and I still do. And it kind of just seeped out. I just realized how much I love just being alone for some parts of my day,
Hmm.
and so it translated to me doing most of my assignments by myself or whatever by myself, and it's pretty fun. I don't know if that's the right word to explain it, but That's how it is on my end.
I remember you telling me you would have to switch gyms
Oh,
because
that's so funny. Yeah. Well, there were two reasons for that. One, I wanted a change, and two, I just wanted to be by myself. I just wanted to zone in or zone out, zone
so
in.
a little bit of backstory here, folks. So Jamie, when he used to work out at different gyms, because he's the beast that he is, he would be so popular that people would always come up to him during his sets, and it would take him like 3 to 4 hours to finish a workout.
Yeah, actually, it's like I'm just minding my business, and people come up to me and we talk about workout programs, which I don't mind for a minute. But if it starts to impede my like working out routine, it gets really annoying. So I think my routine was every year I would switch between 2 to 3 gyms.
That's insane. That's
Yeah,
insane.
usually two,
Hmm.
three was max, but two, I would alternate between Ryerson University's gym or U of T's gym, or I would go get a membership at home. And yeah, so that's a little side thing on me in regards
Is
to
is
working
is,
out.
is
Pretty
there
funny, actually.
is there a place where it was particularly bad that you were like, I gotta get out of here?
Oh, some bits Ryerson because I knew so many people there, and it almost became like a social outing where you'd work out and it's almost like you're at a bar and
Right.
having a full-on conversation for like 15-20 minutes, and then
Hmm.
you'll go back to your set, but you're cold and
Oh man.
you don't feel like working out anymore.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my gym story for the day.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, figure out if you work best alone or in groups, and if you think you work well in groups, really kind of like hone in. Is it because you want to work in a group, or do you actually work well in a group? Because that's something that I think we all kind of have to figure out as well.
Yeah, you just try it out, right? Even if you're not like a social person or you're not a group person, just give it a try. You won't know, and yeah, you'll find cool things about working out in a group or by yourself. Just try it out.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any other techniques that you use as well to stay focused?
Well, we're talking about micro tips. The macro tip, I guess we mentioned earlier, was sleep and all that, like
Hmm.
exercise.
Yeah.
I would actually I want to add to that macro before going to the micro.
Yeah, go for it.
Um, Three things that I do in terms of macro view of staying focused
Hmm.
is I try to know your why and try to restate it at the beginning of the day. So,
That's a good one. Yeah.
right, like what I have all these, so I plan the day beforehand, right? So all these
Hmm.
tasks, the morning of or whatever time in the morning, I just ask myself, why am I doing these things? And one thing is I'm doing this because I want to be the best educator or whatever. That's one. Two, I mentioned it, plan your day beforehand. So I'm not thinking the day of what I have to do. And when you're thinking, there's more time for you to be like, oh, let me just do this instead. Let me watch a YouTube video. And I think the biggest one is I always start my day with the most important task. So the
Right.
first thing, like legit the first thing of the day,
Hmm.
other than making my coffee, is do the most important thing first. And then I start my day with a nice win, as assuming I finish that most important task, and it rolls over to the other task. So it helps me stay focused. So those are my macro tips. Micro, we talked about Pomodoro. Uh, I can't think of any. Do you have
Um,
any other micro
well, no,
tips?
I kind of actually just wanted to touch on something that you just talked about. So okay, so when you wake up, you have your coffee and you're going about your first most important task of the day.
Yeah,
What does that look like? Like what is the method of that? What is the routine of that?
that's actually something I like to talk about, and I like to hear your take on it too. So it's routine. So after my coffee, I make it. I try to do two things at once, and I know it's kind of counterproductive, where you should be focusing on one task,
Hmm.
but I experimented it. I experimented in it. It works for me. So what I do is I do a nice little 15 to 20 minute cardio session on my stationary bike,
Hmm.
and I do a little programming courses while I'm on that bike.
Oh, cool.
Because the exercise is not very intense, I could put my attention to programming. So I
Hmm.
pull up Data Camp, which is this course thing that I take programming courses on.
Hmm.
I spend 20 minutes, and that's my most important task of the day because it's in line with my why. Like I
Hmm.
want to become an economist or I want to work with data. So that's my why. And then because I've done that, I feel so great. And it rolls over to my actual work stuff. So marketing or teaching or whatever. So
Hmm.
that's how I go about it. And it helps me stay focused. It sets me in a good mood. But what's your schedule like, I guess?
Yeah, so we actually kind of work in opposite avenues here because what I like to do is get the small stuff out of the way,
Ooh,
and that way I have the ball rolling, and that way I feel like I'm more able to stay focused because I know I already did it. So let's say
yeah.
let's say I have a couple assignments due, right? One is pretty moderate, one's pretty light, and one's really heavy. So what I like to do is when I wake up, provided I'm done all my classes and stuff like that, what I like to do is kind of really focus my why on the one easy task, right? So if I say like I have to write, I don't know, a paragraph or something, right? I'm gonna set an allotment of time that I think is necessary for this to work. Let's say, I don't know, an hour. So in my case, roughly 3 Pomodoros. That's what I'm going
Mm,
to set for this, right? So in each of those 3 Pomodoros, my why is what am I going to do? I'm going to write this paragraph. And then after I do that, knock it out of the way, I feel like I can kind of continue with the rest of my tasks in a more positive and optimal state because I already did it.
yeah. No, I actually think for someone who's trying to be on this journey of becoming more productive and being more focused,
Hmm.
I'd recommend to do something lighter first.
Hmm.
That way you get that ball rolling. Whereas if you do the most important or the most difficult task, there's more chances of you failing and not actually doing the full thing. And
Right.
so if you can't do that, then you're not as likely to do the next task after that. So I actually recommend the former method, dentist method first. And I that's great. That's great. I like how you explained it that way.
Well, yeah, and as you're saying, right, this is a journey. So, at first you're gonna try things that, maybe don't work for you, and you're gonna experiment and you're gonna find something that eventually does. Like you like to do the most important thing because after a lot of trial and error, you found that that works best for you.
Mhm. So I think the underlying theme here for both of us is to get something done in the morning, right? To get something done in the morning, as long as you get something done, then the rest of the day should follow.
Yeah,
In my opinion, when it comes to being focused,
a
right?
100%.
So I guess that's a good micro tip. Another one, very micro, is to set up your environment when you're starting your task,
Oh, that, what's funny?
right?
That's
So,
a big one. We say micro, but it's
oh
actually
yeah.
huge. Yeah, it's actually a really big thing.
So how do you set up your environment? So let's say you're doing a class assignment. How do you set up your environment? What's your environment like?
Okay. So for me, I realize that if I don't have a clean workstation, or if something is not, put a certain way, I get distracted really easy and I can't focus the way I want to. So I make sure that everything on my workstation is necessary for that task. Everything that's not necessary is gone, so I can focus only on that thing that I'm doing and nothing else.
Yeah, that's actually a very good way of thinking of it. Just have anything that's not important to the task away from your attention.
Hmm.
So, as you mentioned, keep your space clean. And for example, you don't want to have your iPad and your computer if you're not going to use it, because let's say the moment you take off your attention away from the task, you look at the iPad, then you might think of, oh, let me check WhatsApp. Let me just
Exactly.
check my notifications quickly, right? Or your phone, keep that off your desk. Or even a box, right? Like an old box you have. If you look at it for a few seconds, then you need to spend an extra few seconds to get back on track.
Yeah,
So,
I remember I read this article, and it's funny you talk about that basically every time we turn our attention away from a task and look at our phone, we actually reduce productivity by about 30 to 35% when we go back to it.
no, I didn't know. I didn't know the numbers behind it, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that that's a thing, right?
Hmm.
Because like if I'm on my phone, if I'm really concentrating on, let's say, marking, and I look at my phone for a minute, and I come back to my task of marking, I'm like, oh, where did I go? What
Yeah,
was it?
exactly. You got
What
to
was I doing?
find your place, you got to find your groove, and suddenly
Yeah,
you're not in the same space that you were.
it's like a computer starting up, right? You turn it off for a second, and you turn it back on. You got to go through the loading screen, all that. So
Hmm.
That's pretty much it. So as you mentioned, keep your space clean.
Like, are you very particular in where you're working, or does it not matter? Can you like place your laptop and just go to town?
Um, I have preferences. Yeah, I have preferences, but I think I could just pull up somewhere and work. But I
Hmm.
do have preferences, right? Like a coffee shop pre-COVID. Actually, no, that's not entirely true because I can't just pull up in my room and work. I had to get really used to it actually.
Hmm.
Working from home, it was so hard. But I have my preferences like a coffee shop. You know, not a big fan of libraries actually, in terms
Yeah,
of
it's funny because I was gonna say like another we just kind of talked about set up your space, but if you're unable to set up a space and this is pre-COVID or post-COVID depending on when you're listening to this, but finding a space that works for you is also really important to staying focused. Like
yeah.
you were saying, libraries don't do it for you. I'm the same way, man. Libraries,
Oh yeah.
I
Okay.
tried for like about a year just to get myself in the zone, and I realized I don't like the vibe. Like for whatever reason, I can't do my best in the library.
What? So I know just because we're friends, I know you like coffee shops. So
Yeah.
why coffee shops over why coffee shops over libraries? What's that differentiating feature, that thing?
So I think for me is, and I kind of thought about the reason why, because libraries are so convenient, right? Like why not just go there? Why
That's
why go to a
true.
coffee shop and possibly spend money on coffee when you don't need to? But the reason I think it is because if I'm already super into what I'm doing, I'm very serious about the work that I need to do, I don't like that serious vibe to be around me as well. In a coffee shop, it's more laid back, it's more chill. So when I take a break, I'm not in that same serious mode. I can like relax and chill with the environment that I'm in.
That's a very good point. One thing I do want to mention as a micro tip, when you're doing work, right, do it in a happy state. So let me go back to
Yes.
coffee. Yeah, right?
Yes.
Right. Makes
Yes.
sense, right?
Yes.
You want to
Yes.
be
Yes.
happy
Yes.
when you're doing work. So when I'm in a coffee shop, because of the aroma of the coffee and the high of the coffee, that's one part reason why I'm happy.
It's amazing.
But
Coffee is the
but
greatest thing in the world.
right, that's a whole podcast that I
Yeah.
would love to talk about, just coffee,
Oh my God.
right? And just seeing other people enjoying their coffee, the atmosphere, right?
Hmm.
It's a very positive atmosphere and it puts me in a very good state. And when I'm in that state, I'm more likely to do work and stay focused. So that's why I love coffee shops over, let's say, a library. Libraries are just depressing, in my opinion. Don't you think so?
I think so too, man. I used to think it's like, oh wow, really cool. A lot of people are studying here at the same time. But I'm like, it just feels dark and
Nah,
gloomy and
man,
dreary, and it's not really for me.
right? Because like everyone's stressed, they're like cramming. Like I don't want to be. That's that's some negative vibes going on there.
No, and you just said the exact word I was trying to think of, stress, right? It's unnecessary
Yes,
stress that I don't need when I'm already stressed myself,
yes,
or vice
yeah. I
versa,
don't want
you
to see
know?
people stressed. Like I'm already stressed as hell. I don't want to see you stressed.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I always know. Yeah, find your environment. You got to experiment with that. For us, it's coffee shops. Any other environments that you like?
Um,
Oh, I
uh,
know you're a balcony guy.
yeah, yeah. So when COVID was in like late spring to almost summer, it was starting to get a bit warm,
Yeah,
and I was able to, set up the balcony table, put some chairs out, get a coffee going, and in the morning I would just kind of do my work outside in the balcony, get some sun, see people walking by, and it would kind of, it was nice because I wasn't cooped up here. Because like you were saying, it was a transition, man, going from going out every day downtown to do work and to study to staying home. It was tough. It was a tough transition. And I had to say, like, my focus wasn't there in the beginning. It took a while to get to where I wanted it to be.
yeah, and that transition was hard. I remember like in the midst of that transition, I was experimenting between, working in my room versus working outside. So in the driveway, I would pull up like a desk,
Oh, really?
foldable desk, and just put outside and try working out there. And I actually found it was a lot better. Well, I don't know on an everyday basis it would be better, but I think because I'm getting outside of my room,
Hmm.
I found myself a little more productive because of the change of environment. So I guess another thing to add to that is if you're starting to lose focus, try changing environment. You know, the coffee shop, go somewhere else for a
Yeah,
change, and you
that
might
is
find that
that is a great tip. what I do want to say is that, since we are in a pandemic for the, for
Yeah.
foreseeable future, we can't really go anywhere. What I would
Yes.
suggest is not making your working space the same space where you kind of relax and chill in,
Wow, that's actually a great
if
point.
possible, right? Because I know a lot of people aren't afforded that opportunity. But if, let's say you spend a lot of time in your bedroom, don't make that your study space or your workspace, because in your
That's
head
actually,
already thinks of it as like a place to relax, place to take
yeah,
it easy. So it's going to be that much harder to kind of kick it into overdrive when you actually need to do work.
that's a very good point. And it's also a mental thing, right? So if your room and your workspace is separate, the moment you walk into a room, you're mentally setting yourself up to be like, oh, okay, work, and that's it. No leisure, no
Exactly.
Instagram, no WhatsApp.
Exactly.
I'm unfortunately don't have that pleasure or that leisure or the luxury of having a separate workroom.
Hmm.
But you could try mental exercises right now. If it's time to work, mentally prepare yourself to be like, oh, work, that's it. No Instagram, no social media or anything like that. But very good point, right? Creating that physical divide between leisure and work, I
Hmm.
think is very important.
And another thing to add to that is, it's a very simple thing, but I feel like it goes a long way. Silence your phone,
Oh yeah, wow, that's actually
right?
super easy to do, right?
Yeah, silence your phone. If you have an iPhone, there's like a switch. If there's an Android, you just select something. And yeah, just to reiterate, silencing your phone, uh, very important. You basically remove all unnecessary distractions that way. No more Instagram notifications, no Twitter notifications, no WhatsApp messages. They're there, but when you're doing something, you really don't need to be looking at them.
Yeah. I do it a bit differently. I recommend silencing. In addition to what I do is leave your phone out of sight. I put my phone on my bed, and my bed's pretty far away from my desk.
Oh, that's a great
So
tip.
if I want to get my phone, right, I have to actually physically get up. And as you
Hmm.
mentioned in an earlier podcast, it adds friction to to your work. So that's what I do. And I think tea or coffee, right, scientifically has shown that you're more focused and attentive when you drink coffee or anything with caffeine, although don't drink too much.
I
Um,
will
I
say,
like to drink, yeah,
yeah, sorry, anecdotally, coffee is the one thing that keeps me going.
yeah, I think that's my lifeline right there. You know, without it, my life just falls apart and crumbles.
And I don't know if that's like a dependency speaking, but me with coffee is very different than me without coffee. And I don't know if you're the same way.
Oh, 100%. Like the morning, as soon as I wake up, my mind's foggy, not very clear. But the moment I drink coffee, like the clouds separate and just
Yeah,
like,
right. It's
whoa, I
like
could see the sun, right?
yeah, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea.
Yeah,
How
right.
do you take your coffee?
Oh,
Quick
I do.
question.
So I used to be black when I first started drinking coffee.
Hmm.
Then I transitioned to, full on lattes, like half coffee and like
Nice.
half milk. So it's like
Nice.
50% milk. And that's how I drink it. I love it.
See, the thing
It's
is,
a pleasure.
lattes are great, and if you have a really good latte, it's hard to go back.
Seriously, right?
Yeah,
And I
right?
have a espresso machine, so I make my own lattes. And that's pretty key.
Do you have a Breville?
Breville,
Oh, nice.
right? It's a
Nice.
nice entry level barista machine, whatever you call them, and it's totally worth it. But yeah, I do coffee, lattes, and then if I need that little extra jump to be more focused, I'll have a green tea or a matcha tea, and so that I'm not over consuming caffeine.
Oh, I see. Just like a small additive after your
Yeah,
coffee.
like a nice little stim push.
How many cups are you at per day?
Oh, I only do 1 cup in the morning as soon
Hmm.
as I wake up, and maybe a coffee. But I try to restrict caffeine um, before 12. Like all my caffeine consumptions before 12, nothing after 12.
Oh, is that because like a sleeping thing, or you just kind of
Just
want to limit it?
sensitive. Yeah, sleeping. I've noticed like, if I drink coffee or anything with caffeine in the afternoon, it's
Hmm.
very hard for me to sleep, or my sleep quality is just pretty poor.
Oh, I see.
And then that's going to affect, your focus down the road the next morning. So
Yeah, because your
try not
sleep
to do
is
that.
off, the next day's off, and it's a whole ball rolling thing.
Yeah, it's snowball, man. Not cool. How do you drink your coffee? Black.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're black
yeah,
guy. I
I'm
mean,
pretty, I'm pretty straight up. Yeah, I just drink it black. I also have like a small little espresso machine at home, DeLonghi. I think that's how you
yeah,
pronounce it. But yeah, I make some espressos here and there, nothing too fancy. I drink quite a bit more than you do. I drink about 2 to 3 cups a day, once in the
But
morning, once in the afternoon, and then once around the evening time.
I feel like your body is more of it's not as sensitive to caffeine compared to me. So like you could drink a coffee at night and go to bed like an hour later, right?
Yeah, it's weird because I don't really get that rush of caffeine, and that's maybe just because I've spent a lot of my life drinking it.
Mm.
But yeah, it doesn't really affect my sleep. But definitely, I don't know if it's a placebo or not. But when I drink it versus when I don't drink it, I'm like 100% more on the ball.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I
Mhm.
feel the same thing. I'm on the ball. It's rolling. Life is clear,
Life
and
is clear.
I'm in heaven,
Absolutely.
right? So yeah, that's our little micro tip. Just drink your coffee, drink anything with caffeine. It gives you a nice boost.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we've kind of said a lot of different things. So I'm just gonna recap quickly. So we kind of broke it down into macro tips and micro tips of ways to help you focus. So macro tips, right? Sleep,
Yeah.
very important. Make sure you get your good 6 to 8 hours as recommended for adults. If you're younger than that, like 7 to 9, make sure you get your sleep. Exercise, make sure you get something in just to get the blood pumping, oxygen levels to the brain and all that. Jamie recommended doing some
Yep.
cardio.
Yeah, a nice like short cardio session. Nothing too strenuous where you feel tired right afterwards. So that's what I recommend. Uh, Macro tip two, I think, is know your why. So start off knowing your why for the day, whether
Hmm.
it be, I'm going to be the best teacher for that day, or I just really want to become an economist down the road. So then my why is, doing all these courses or whatever projects. Plan your day the night before, I think helps. And for me, start with your most important task of the day, the
Right.
morning of. Dennis, it's the opposite. Start with something that's not as much effort to keep the ball rolling
And
onto the
again,
next task.
if you're just starting off, kind of experiment, see what works for you. Because again, you might be
100%.
different than both of us. You might want to do the medium, most important thing in the day and see what happens. But again, really important, have that intent, have that why, understand why you're doing something, and it's gonna be a lot easier to do it going forward.
Yeah, like for example, Dennis, the reason why he could pull through 9 courses and get almost a 4.0 is he knows why. It's not like arbitrarily taking 9 courses. No, it's because he wants to become a doctor and get to med school, right? So when you know your why, it's much easier to, do those 9 courses. Whereas
Yeah,
for me, if
I
I
don't
wanted,
recommend that, by the way.
yeah, yeah, I don't think anyone should do that. But for me, it's so easy for me to, start my morning with programming, which may be a bit boring for a lot of people, but for myself, because I know why I want to do this, why what I want to be or whatever,
Mhm.
it's so easy for me to start my day with that. So big tip.
Yeah, and,
Number
and
one.
and another macro tip, and we kind of push it to micro, but I feel like it's more of a macro tip, is getting your workspace ready for what you want it to be,
Actually,
right? So
I think
if
that's
if you're
both.
yeah, I feel like you could fit into both categories. It's like a mix, micro macro
Mm-hmm.
type thing. But yeah, like we were saying, make sure your workspace is set up for you to be able to focus in the best way possible. So if you're a neat freak, make sure it's clean. Make sure it only needs things that are necessary for the task at hand. If you are able to go into another space that's not your room or something comfortable, do that, because your brain knows when it can relax and when it's ready to do work.
Yeah, big thing. And try it out, right? Not maybe you don't need to be a clean freak, but just try it out. And I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was one of the main points in our podcast is to try new things, experiment, and see how that works out for you. Whether
Hmm.
that be a coffee shop environment or a library. Obviously, COVID can't really do much, but try new things out.
Yeah, absolutely. And to keep going on our micros, Pomodoros, um,
Big.
yeah, super big. The one thing that's really changed the way I work and the way I achieve certain things is breaking things down into smaller chunks of time, making it more doable. It's kind of like setting goals, set them small before you set them big. And over time, you're going to reach that big one by setting small ones.
Yeah, I like that. And I think another, what was the other micro tip? Oh no, it was setting up the environment and coffee. And drink coffee, drink a latte, drink a green
Yeah,
tea.
exactly. Put yourself, be happy. You
Yeah.
said
Oh
it best.
yeah.
Like make yourself happy. It's hard to work when you're upset, easy to work when you're happy. Make yourself happy. If you need that coffee, if you need that tea, or if you need, I don't know, whatever it is in the morning, or in the afternoon, whenever you work, whatever it is to get you ready and primed to work, do that, because a happy worker is a productive worker.
100%, right? A happy worker is a productive worker. Super important to remember. And yeah, phone. Keep your phone on silent
Hmm.
and leave it away. Put it away somewhere so you can't reach for it.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's all, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we do. But of course, we're also still on this journey. We're not infallible. There's still things that we're trying to work on. Um, what is something that you feel like you can kind of improve on in this regard?
I think the biggest one is it goes back to the Pomodoro.
Hmm.
When you actually set a timer up for, let's say, 15 minutes, there are a
Hmm.
few things you should not do. You should not go on WhatsApp or Instagram,
Yeah.
right? I think that's one. You should try not to look at the timer.
Hmm.
And those are the two main things I find myself doing. I catch myself, going on Instagram. I would control T while I'm, let's say, marking, and I type in Instagram, and I'll spend maybe 1 or 2 seconds, but then I quickly realize that, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, and I go
Right.
back to my task.
Hmm.
I don't want to do that at all. So that's something I'm trying to work on.
Hmm.
And looking at the timer, I keep looking at the timer,
Yeah.
right? As soon as I start, 15 minutes, let's say 3 minutes has gone by, I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh man, I still have 12 minutes to go. Then I'll look at it 5 minutes from now and
Yeah.
7 minutes
So
left.
that's actually a great thing, because then another kind of micro tip that we can point out is, hide the timer. You'll
Oh,
hear the
yeah,
alarm
that's
when
good
it
too.
goes off, but if you hide it, you won't have no idea. So you can just focus on exactly what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's something I'm trying to work on too. I think those are the two main ones. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's all that's coming to my head. What are you trying to work on your end?
So I think what would help me kind of focus more is, I feel like it's more of a macro scale type of thing, and that is meditation, right? I feel like meditation is a really, well, I've heard a lot about it, and I kind of want to try for myself, because I've said this numerous times. I'm a very extreme person. I'm trying to find that balance in my life, because I feel when you're properly balanced, you work better, right? In
Yeah.
whatever avenues you're trying to work at. And I feel like meditation is something that I kind of want to give it a shot, because I feel like it would kind of center me and put me in a way where, like, I can do this, I can do that. I don't need to worry about this. I don't need to worry about that. And without those worries, I can focus better.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned meditation. That's something I wanted to do. I just couldn't remember.
Hmm.
And I like how you said centered. I think that's what meditation would do, help keep you centered
I
and
think
not
so.
too much to one side. Where, for us, like Dennis and I both very career driven. We want to get somewhere. We're too much on that side,
Yeah.
right? And so we're always thinking about that. But I think with meditation, it'll just help us be more centered and focused. And yeah, um,
Yeah. The reason, yeah, I think I vaguely remember a conversation that you and our friend Ryan actually brought this up, and I believe that you guys have like an app that you were thinking about using or are using. I'm not too sure.
yeah, so Amex offered this promotion where if you download, I think it was called Calm, it's a meditation app, you get it free for a year. So I have it installed for about 2 weeks now, and I haven't used it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, right. And it's funny because we're trying to be like productive masters, and I haven't used it yet.
Hey, it's a
But
journey, man. It's a
I
journey.
think it's a journey, right? We're on a journey.
Hmm.
The one Ryan used, and it's very popular amongst a lot of people, is called Headspace.
Okay.
And you've probably seen ads on YouTube
Hmm.
on Headspace. Very calming voice. And it's only like 5 minutes per session. And what Ryan has told me is that after a year of using it, it helps him keep tuned to himself, be present, and be focused.
So
So
just to
five
just
minutes a day is not much time.
just to kind of backtrack. So what is it that Calm and Headspace do exactly? Like, what do these apps do?
It's a guided meditation. So they'll say things like, "Oh, imagine yourself on a beach, uh,
Hmm.
legs crossed, just tuning into yourself." And then a minute later, they'll say, "Now imagine your 5 years down the road self.
Hmm.
Who is that person? Now imagine it." So it's like guided meditation. I haven't really done it, so I can't really speak on it too much, but
Right.
that's the gist of it from my end.
Okay. So it seems like it's a pretty easy way to kind of get into the meditation sphere
Yeah.
without like actually going to like a session or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's because it's 5 minutes, it's not much time. It's very doable. And it's an app, so it's accessible as well.
Is it do you have to pay for it? Is it like a sub?
I think it's paid. You pay like 60, $80 a year Canadian. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I think both of us want to get into it. I really want to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I'm really probably going to end up trying. If there's a free trial, I'll
Yeah.
try it out and report back to you guys to see how it is. But, definitely 5 minutes a day does not seem like a lot of time at all. I feel like everyone can kind of do that. But also, there's probably other different ways to meditate. I'm gonna research it. I feel like there's a lot of things out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I think one subset of meditation is visualization, which is
Hmm.
something I want to get into as well. Just like
Right.
visualizing more, right? And I think that helps. Athletes do it a lot before a big game. They visualize the game, so it sets themselves up mentally.
See, it's funny that you say that because I feel like visualizing is basically when we say know your why and do something with
Oh
intent.
yeah, I
I
think
feel like
that's
that's kind of the same thing,
yeah.
right? So
It's
like
almost the same thing. Yeah,
yeah, like when let's say you have an Excel sheet to give in by a certain day, right? And you set yourself with intent, I'm going to do this. In a sense, I feel like that's kind of like you're visualizing that happening and then you end up doing it.
yeah. I think it's the very base layer of visualization.
Hmm.
You're trying to like replicate it almost in real time. So imagine you're actually, I guess, with I don't know how fun it would be for an Excel sheet. But if you are a quarterback, you kind of visualize it in your head real time. So imagine yourself actually, hutting or throwing the pass,
Step
getting
by step.
tackled
Yeah.
step by step. I think it's with more intent, and that's part of visualizing, right? Just knowing your why and just briefly visualizing you completing the task is part of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, visualizing.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so we talked about macro, micro, the things that we want to work on. Any other last minute tidbits you want to give our listeners?
In terms of focus, I think we hit almost every nail, and I don't want to be a parrot and repeat everything, but
Mhm.
I think if we were to give one single biggest tip for our viewers, what would it be for you and then myself? So I'll let you start. What's the single biggest tip of all the tips that we provided?
Of all the tips that we
Number
talked
one,
about today, and I
just pick
cannot
one.
recommend this enough, Pomodoro. Try it
Pomodoro.
out. Try it out. Set set yourself up to do something for 15 minutes, only that thing, and then do it. Give yourself a 5 minute break and repeat. And I guarantee you, if you do it enough, it's going to change the way that you work.
Yep, I'm going to actually back you up on that 100%. Try out the Pomodoro 15 minutes. I think that's it in terms of what we recommend. Anything else you want to cover before we, I guess, move on to our next section, which would be one of my favorite sections of all time?
No, I think we can actually kind of head there now. What is your book recommendation of the week, Jamie?
Well, as per tradition, I'll let you go first because I have to think about it.
I actually have to think about mine.
All right, so let's do it on the spot, actually. So you know what? While I'm here, I'm going to pull it up because I could see it. It is the book of the year, Kobe Bryant, The Mamba Mentality.
Okay.
And yeah,
R.I.P. Mamba.
You don't even have to be a basketball fan. I'm not even the biggest basketball fan, but I like the mindset of
Wait, you're
Kobe
not the
Bryant,
biggest
where
basketball fan?
I'm not the biggest basketball fan. I'm not the biggest basketball. But if you're not a really big NBA fan, you could take away from his mindset. So he gives a lot of his insight to being a very competitive player. And he mentions how, if he goes into the gym to work out and shoot some shots and he sees someone there working out before him, he'll come 2 to 3 hours before that person.
Right.
So if that person's there at 5, he'll be there at 3. That's the work ethic of the Kobe Bryant.
The Mamba mentality.
The Mamba mentality, and the matchups between players and how he like overanalyze like these people's play styles so that he worked on the weaknesses in game. So
Mhm.
great book, great pictures, very easy to digest because it's mostly just pictures. Pretty hefty though. It's like $50. Rest in peace.
Well, it looks like
But
it
there's my
looks like a
book
really
of the
big
month.
book.
Yeah, it's really big. It's beautiful pictures and high quality, and You could buy a soft cover for like $10 cheaper, and I think that's equally as worth it. So
Nice.
that's my book of the podcast.
Nice. I will definitely check that out. As for my book, let me just grab it real quick.
Yeah. In the meantime, that is my book, Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace again. It's just that if you love pictures, if you love basketball, it provides so many good tips, like on strategies and how to play and all that. So here's Dennis coming along.
Or I'm going to cut all that stuff out. Yeah, as for my book of the week, I have a little book here by Dr. John R. Rady called Spark.
That's so funny. Okay, go on.
Yeah, and a few of you probably have heard about this book. It basically goes into the revolutionary science of how exercise works on the brain. So it gives a number of different case studies and of real life examples where, just simply changing the way you move or moving in general can kind of reap very tangible benefits on the brain, on the workspace, on productivity, and in life in general. What it goes on to say, I'm not going to spoil too much, but basically exercise, and you're going to see a lot of positivity in the way that you do things overall.
Yeah, I've also actually read that book. It's a great book. Dennis was the one who recommended it to me, and I read it. I loved it. And I think if I were to summarize that book in one line, it's like exercise increases BDNF. Like I just kept hearing those words.
Yeah, BDNF.
BDNF, exercise. There you go.
Yeah,
I don't know what exactly
BDNF
BDNF is, but
it's a growth factor that kind of helps in neurogenesis. So the regeneration and propagation of new neurons in the brain. And the more neurons you have, surprisingly, the better your brain works.
apparently, I'm no scientist, but it sounds like you'll be smarter with more neurons.
Yeah, you'll be smarter if you work out. Basically, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, who doesn't want that? That's like there was something they said like, if there was a magic pill to make you smarter, exercise would be it.
Yeah, that's actually one of the direct quotes from the book. Yeah, it is
Oh, say
literally,
what?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's amazing what exercise can do for you. And yeah, if you're still on the, if you're just starting the new year, new me, you're already on that workout journey. And I feel like if you combine that with productivity and these new methods that we're kind of talking about, you're going to see a world of difference in what you can achieve.
Yeah, and eventually they'll just work synergistically, right?
Yeah.
One will just work well with the other.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been the Productive Habits Podcast. As always, we are your co-hosts, Dennis and Jamie.